Hey everyone, I'm Danielle from Douglas Realty, and I want to welcome you to this week's episode of Real Estate Matters. Right now, the conversations around real estate are loud. Big headlines, strong opinions, but not a lot of clarity for the consumer or the agent. That's exactly why we started this show to cut through the noise and talk about what's really happening in the market, what buyers and sellers need to know, and how agents can win in a changing environment. Each episode is real and raw, just honest conversations and open insight from two industry experts who are in it every single day and are committed to sharing what's actually going on. So if you're ready to learn something new, let's get started.
Welcome to Real Estate Matters with broker Doug and Greg. And real estate still matters, right? Because wealth building matters, real estate housing opportunities matter. It's more relevant than ever. When you
Yeah,
think,
I agree 100%. So I think, again, it's back to building wealth. The interesting thing is a lot of people are still thinking about renting out there, and it's our job to educate them, which is why we're doing this series. So, yeah.
absolutely that, and kind of teeing it up. Want to introduce yourself and your background, Doug?
Yeah, definitely. So, I think the intro says we're the experts. I don't know if we're really the experts, but we, between the two of us, we've got quite a bit of history in the business. I started officially in the business in 2005. We currently do about 200 transactions a month at Douglas Realty. But in addition to that, I own a mortgage and title company. So altogether, we're doing 300 plus transactions a month. So maybe not the expert, but we do see a lot of transactions, a lot of different situations out there. So we get to see a side that many agents out there don't get to see.
Absolutely, and that kind of gives you, a platform to have a huge broadband view of everything that's going on within the market.
Yeah.
And so I'm Greg Fisk. I'm the regional manager here at Douglas Realty, director of business development for DCA Real Estate Solutions. I kind of sat in Doug's seat for a little bit with the brokerage. I had my own brokerage and also was an owner of a brokerage, and then we were acquired last year with Douglas Realty. We've been incredibly happy with it, and but you've taken it to the next level. You have an ecosystem across not only the real estate brokerage platform, but mortgage and title.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us a little bit about that, and maybe what your vision was and mission was with that.
Yeah, I think the vision and mission kind of blended together, was to make a more efficient and more cost effective process for the consumer, and giving a essentially a vehicle for the agents to be able to represent and help their clients better off. So that was the vision of how do we get all of that under one umbrella, one rooftop, whatever you want to call it. But bottom line, it's one ownership, right? So it's one ownership. So it's one kind of thought process going into it. And then I take experts like Greg here, and we take that feedback and we build on that with all of our leadership across all three companies. But yeah, I think the ultimate goal was to build something that we've been referred to as Amazon sometimes, right? And it's just, if you think about that, it's a one click boom, all of a sudden it shows up on your doorstep. We're not quite that, but we're trying to create this efficient process again for the consumer, and that starts with the agent. We've got to create that for the agent, and then they can deliver that to their customer.
Yeah, absolutely. It kind of gives you a different perspective, and like you said, I think it's an efficient process, but an efficient experience or a seamless experience for the
Mm-hmm.
consumer.
Yeah.
And everyone's in lockstep with what the customer's expectation are and the customer service, the level that you're providing. So, kudos to you for putting that together and having that vision
Thank you.
across that.
Appreciate that.
So, Doug, tell me a little bit. Real Estate Matters is
Mm-hmm.
the blog and podcast, but why Real Estate Matters now, and why the show? What do you think?
I think it's probably more important now than ever. There's our industry has always been the media headline. There's always something, the sky's falling, something's going on, something bad. Rarely do we see the good side of things, but there's a lot of good going on in our industry. And I think the thought of having Real Estate Matters is a way for us to just really kind of share things. Again, it's open, raw discussion, not scripted or anything like that, but it's to share with um, agents, buyers, sellers, the consumer in general, maybe a little bit deeper dive on what's really happening out there. I think the news media gets, they run with the small headline, but you never get all the details behind the scene of really what's happening with that. I saw that one this morning, and I won't go down that rabbit hole, but it was about some of this off market stuff that's going on right now, and a lot of times the media will twist it to whatever they need
Yeah.
to get the people watching. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Absolutely. I think sometimes the news is meant to terrify us instead of inform us and
yeah,
educate us. So they're grabbing headlines, and we're in an attention culture sort of media society. So I think shows like this give the viewer, who is the consumer, buyers, sellers, but also the agent population out there, an insider's perspective, and certainly someone that's seeing a lot of transactions come across your desk has a different purview than kind of the regular agent would do. So
yeah,
I think it's great to bring clarity to the market and these issues like you're talking about. And I
yeah.
know we'll probably tee up. We'll probably have a whole segment on office exclusives later in the future.
Oh
That
yeah, definitely.
we could probably talk about that for hours. So
Yeah.
that's one of those issues that's sort of ripe in the market right now, and we definitely have our opinions.
Yes, we do. We do.
But a little bit, what do you see in the market right now? Let's provide some clarity for, let's say, the consumers first and then the agents. What are you
Yeah,
seeing in the market?
I think again, just looking at the masses and getting to see the back end and what's actually in a contract and when there's inspections or when they're being waived and what's happening with appraisals and all the different things that go into essentially the terms of the contract, right? And so it gives us a pretty clear window of what's happening as the market starts shifting one way or another. I think we're in a kind of a unique market right now. I think we are. I'm going to use the word balance, but I don't think we're actually in a balanced market. I think we're leaning more towards a buyer. We're a little bit more weighted on a buyer market right now. But the reason I say there's a little bit of balance there is if the sellers out there will listen to the professional's advice. The professional is the real estate agent, right? They're the ones doing this every day. Look, at the end of the day, AI is really good,
Mhm.
but AI is only as good as the information you provide to it. So if you don't know enough to give it the full context of what's happening, AI can't really give you the right answers. But you take a real estate agent that does this for a living, they're basically able to look at that property and number one for sellers say, look, these are things that we recommend, highly recommend you do. A lot of times it's condition, right? Paint, flooring, simple things, but it's cosmetic, but it's what sells the
Yep.
property. I think what ties into that too is pricing. From so I think when I talk about we're a little balanced market, but leaning more towards the buyer side, what we're actually seeing though is some of these sellers are still getting multiple offers in like 3-4 days. So
Yeah.
like it's really quick, but I think it's due to them following that professional's advice.
Yeah, I would agree with you, and have you assess my take on it too. But I want to dovetail off something you just said, and I agree with you 100%. We're still a relationship business, right? There's
Hmm.
a lot of emotion within real estate.
Yeah.
The professional agent's job is to take some of that emotion out,
Hmm.
make rational decisions based on reason and reasonable decisions. But I would say also, right, like the equation is a professional real estate leveraging AI. Right now, it's a superpower. If you've got agents that are starting to use AI, professional agents,
Hmm.
I mean, it's a powerful
Oh
team,
yeah. Yeah.
team there. And kind of what you were talking about, I know what you're saying. Like it's kind of a balanced market, but it's there's nuance to it. Like I would say it's almost like a bifurcated market, right? Like we still have people holding on to how we were coming out of COVID, where it
Hmm.
was like just slap the property on the multiple list, do the least amount possible and see what you're going to get for it.
Yeah.
And then there's the professional standards of the agents that are professional, that are um, doing the preparation to get the house sold, pricing right, having right
Hmm.
pricing strategy, and using the tools and resources to really optimize the sale of the property.
Yeah.
So to your point, yeah, we're seeing some properties that have been marketed properly get multiple offers,
Hmm.
and then we're seeing some properties that sit out there, right?
We are. I think last data that I looked at was like 1 in 2 homes are sitting for at least 60 days right now on the market, which is a
Yeah,
long time. Sellers are not used to that. Agents aren't used to that.
right.
So it takes a little bit to change that mindset and get used to that. But yeah, I think location we can't change, right? But location is always going to be an attraction for the consumer, the buyer out there. But I think if the seller can get everything right, check all the boxes and follow and not price at the very top of the market, they become competitive.
Yeah,
And that's why I say, we're in kind of a unique market. Definitely more on the buyer side. We're seeing a lot of benefits for buyers in closing help and things like that, reduction in sales price, those kind of things. But again, if the seller gets it right, we're seeing them with multiple offers.
yeah,
So we haven't seen that market in many years.
yeah.
So I'm excited about that.
Yeah, I think like you said, there's a normalization about it a little bit, right? But still, it's preparation, presentation, and pricing. If you can master those three P's, then you're going to set yourself up for success.
Yeah.
And it's the professional agent out there that's doing that, that's taking the time to have those conversations, and sometimes difficult conversations with the seller, right?
Yeah.
And that's our job, is to be upfront and honest with them, and come up with a realistic and effective pricing strategy. Also tell them the hard things that they may need to know about getting their house ready to go to market.
Yeah. That's never easy.
That's never easy. It's like, it's hard to tell someone that their baby's ugly.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt.
Yeah.
But look, we've gone through some direct examples. We had a listing recently where the seller didn't want to do those things, and the property sat, unfortunately. And when I was asked to give my professional advice on it, I didn't even need to go to the house. I just look at the pictures,
Yeah.
and I was able to guide them there. And obviously, the agent's at the house, so they're giving that direct information. But they took it off the market for, I think, almost 30 days. They refinished floors, did paint, put it back on the market, and they sold it in a week.
Yeah.
So it makes it work.
Yeah, if you follow the plan, it works.
Yeah.
And I tell my agents too, within the team, and also the agents here at Douglas, like, look, I've got anecdotal stories where the client didn't listen to what I wanted to do, or my advice and professional advice, and the property sat. We ended up chasing the market.
Mhm.
We had to be responsive and kind of just chase the market, as opposed to the clients that do what you say, trust in your advice, follow the game plan, and to your point, we're under contract within a reasonable amount of time, sometimes within a week or less, at offers that are above list price.
Yeah, definitely.
So, make sure that you're following the advice of your trusted agent, and agents out there. Please put the time and effort into educating yourself about where the market is. We talk about the market numbers. We've seen, some inventory matriculating in, growing a little bit. I think we're something like 7% year over year.
Yeah.
Nationally. Again, we have to be careful of those numbers, right? Because if we're looking at numbers, all real estate's hyper local.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to drill down on, your zip code, even neighborhoods at some point in time, because you could have one neighborhood in Anne Arundel County or one neighborhood in Baltimore County doing, significantly better than another neighborhood.
Absolutely.
Right? That's how hyper local it can be sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
But make sure you're understanding what the market data is within your market too. And again, it's one of those things, like, you can listen to national real estate news, and I turn on, the morning news across the country sometimes, and they're telling you what real estate stats are, but that's like asking what the weather's like in the United States.
Yeah.
It makes no sense.
No, it doesn't. Not at all.
Yeah. So make sure you're getting the right information, because it's, quality in, quality out, as far as how you're advising your clients. And if you're a consumer out there, make sure you're receiving the right information.
Yeah, and if I can add just a little bit, so we talked a lot about the seller side. I think the buyer side, I did mention, like, we're seeing a lot of advantages for buyers out there right now, and I think that's a sign. The interest rates, I know they're, again, that's back to the news media.
Yeah.
The sky is falling, but look, the interest rates are running right around 6.3, 6.3, 6.4 right now. That's not hateful.
No.
And the reality is you can refinance, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I think when you start looking at the demands in the market and what's happening and the home appreciation side of things, and you start balancing and weighing those kind of things out, I think it makes sense to buy now. I really do. And then you can always refinance later. If those rates come down, which we do expect them to come down.
Sure. And you can never time the market perfectly, right?
Right.
It's like you can't time the stock market, you can't time the real estate market. But what I will tell you is, it's almost always a good time to buy real estate.
Yeah.
We've only had 2 dips in the last 40 some years that I've been tracking, right?
Right.
So the great financial crisis, GFC, the Great Recession, and there was a time in the 90s when we had a dip. But other than that, real estate appreciates.
It does, yeah.
And to your point, you're never going to be able to time that market just right. And yeah, we had a little blip with kind of world events, what's happening right now in the Middle East. As it was funny, because we were just getting some stabilization within the mortgage rates, and they were trending in the right direction. Then we had this little black swan event. But we're always going to have these little black swan events. It's nothing you can predict. So
no, but what I would add there, just knowing on the mortgage side, again, it gives me some insight that some others don't have out there, is that anytime we have conflict and things like that going on, it does affect the stock market, and it does affect the bond, and ultimately affects the rate itself. And we're going to have that bump up. That's typically temporary.
Right.
Has been our past. If we look back at history, that's always been temporary. Whereas, as soon as things settle down, it doesn't mean the war or whatever conflict's going on at that moment doesn't mean that it has to be done or over with. But as soon as things start settling down a little bit, we start seeing those rates come back
Yeah,
down. So again, you could get under contract today. I'm not a big fan of floating a rate and just letting it sit there and go up and down. I think there's some advantages to locking it. But there's flexibility there too when you're dealing with like a mortgage broker or
sure.
something like that.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. Owning a mortgage company, you would know a thing or
yeah, a little bit.
two. Yeah, but again, just keep in mind, the national headlines, not the whole story.
Hmm.
That's why I reach out to you. I like to say that the real estate agents, the local economist of choice when it comes to real estate, because they have insights and information and just anecdotal knowledge that's going to be more informative
Yeah,
than what you're
yeah,
going to find out on the
definitely.
news too. So, um, what advice would you give agents in this market? Some of your agents that you're talking to.
I think we've talked about data and things like that. Like you have to know your market, right? I think that's probably the biggest thing for real estate agents right now is real estate is very hyper local. But I think even more today than it has we've ever seen before, right? So I think agents need to, yes, agents are going to go where business takes them, right? And that is part of our job, our industry, our business. But I think agents have to be hyper local as far as they need to pick communities, a town, a city, whatever you want to call it, and they need to understand the complete ins and outs of what's going on in that particular market. And like you said before, you might have one neighborhood doing well and the neighborhood right next door is not. Well, as an agent, they need to know that,
Yeah,
right? So when they're working with a buyer or seller, they need to have that knowledge just back of hand to be able to come in and guide them.
yeah, yeah. And what I really love seeing, we've got some amazing agents within our market here in our office doing it, is they're out there, they're tracking sort of some of the, because real estate's just not an economic investment, right? It's a lifestyle investment.
Yeah.
We got agents out there doing lifestyle videos, figuring out what's going on locally within the community, shopping, restaurants, all kinds of different things.
Hmm.
And all of those things affect pricing, right? Because you said it before, like location matters.
Oh
It's
yeah,
still the number one driver in real estate. Probably always will be the number one driver in real estate.
absolutely.
So it's always location, location, location. So the agents that are out there in the community, learning about the community, the amenities and stuff like that are going to have an upper hand.
Yeah,
And if they're
definitely.
conveying that to their database, their sphere of influence across their social media channels, it's just going to separate themselves as the experts.
Oh, 100%. And we're going to have more videos coming because I mentioned AI earlier. We love AI. We're in it all day long. It is absolutely 100% a tool in our business and in any business, I do think. So
Oh, yeah,
we'll talk more about that later. But look, at the end of the day, I think AI can help an agent in ways that maybe a consumer can't access that because they just don't know what prompts to ask, things like that. So
exactly. It's all
yeah,
about the questions that you
it
ask.
is.
Yeah, and having that inside perspective, we know better what questions to ask.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and I think we'll probably have an entire show probably on AI. In
Oh,
fact, I guarantee
probably
we'll
a
have it.
few.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So just I'm going to put a plug out there. We're starting a little AI mastermind. It's called the Agentic Collective. So we'll put a plug in for that as well. But
Mhm.
yeah, to Doug's point, tool, yes, I'd probably elevate it to it's like an amazing personal assistant.
It
I
is.
mean,
Yeah.
I couldn't do my job without it.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
that's
We rely on it today.
yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah,
So that's awesome. Um, since this we're taking a broad strokes here in this inaugural episode here for us, give us a little bit more insight what some of the agents and consumers might know about not only we touched base a little bit on the mortgage, but about the title side.
yeah. I mean, I think that's important, right? Getting the right title company to work for you, somebody that's I think number one local,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. Couldn't agree
We
with you more on
Yeah, yeah. We unfortunately like we cover multiple states. We're licensed in multiple states. Um, you know, I won't go through them all, but just Maryland, DC, Virginia, surrounding all of that. But sometimes we see a home being purchased in central Maryland and then the title companies in Virginia, for example. And nothing bad about Virginia. Like again, we're licensed there. We do business there on all three sides: the real estate brokerage, the mortgage, and the title side. But when you have that transaction going on and that company is in Virginia, well, they Virginia is very different in how things are handled with the deed.
that.
Just simple like recording it, those kind of things.
Right,
So I think that's probably my number one thing is make sure you're dealing with somebody hyper local also
yeah.
from a title standpoint that understands that local market you're dealing with.
Sure. And, I always say it's the title company, you kind of hand the ball over at the end. They're the ones that kind of get it across the finish line.
Hmm.
So they're buttoning up things, dotting I's and crossing T's, making sure we have a smooth and successful settlement. But I encourage every agent out there, have a relationship with your title company.
Yeah.
I mean, they're your trusted partner, right, in the process. I think everyone germane to the real estate transaction, you should have a trusted mortgage lender on your team, the title companies on your team. Please have someone that you trust in the home inspection world. I mean, the home inspections,
Yeah.
don't get me started. We'll do a whole episode on
We have another one on that.
that. Yeah, yeah. But yeah, I mean, if you can ask questions up, just today, we shot some stuff up to Jessica at Admiral Title to ask us. We had some questions about a power of attorney and some other things, and it's just a invaluable relationship to have.
Yeah, absolutely,
Yeah.
100%.
Well, also kind of touching briefly, I know we had mentioned inventories slowly kind of coming back to the right directions. We talked a
It
little bit
is.
about maybe a pre-COVID getting back to what we would. I don't even know if there's a new. Can we ever use the word normal market again? I don't know.
I don't think so. I don't think so. The
Yeah,
home values keep climbing, and I know the news media said there's a crash coming. And every time I watch, I'm like, there's nothing to cause that, right?
right.
So, yeah, I think this is definitely a new market, but to where you're probably headed is this market we're in now is probably a lot closer to the pre-COVID
Yeah,
markets we
yeah,
experience, where you have the traditional ups
right.
and downs, people on vacation, those kind of things. We can predict that.
Yeah, seasonality of the markets, but I would call it a little more healthy.
Oh,
Um,
100%.
when we going through COVID, the COVID markets, that was just schizophrenic.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
I don't even know the word for it, but that was just
That was
nuts.
craziness.
Yeah, craziness. But and I'm involved in advocacy, sort of on the local board of associations, Maryland and national associations statewide. We're always advocating and fighting for home ownership opportunities, but protecting real property rights. But we definitely need to see some legislation that's going to help us with some inventory.
Oh,
We've
100%.
we've
Yeah.
had some inventory struggles over the past few years. If we can get some more inventory, that'll just help us continue to track towards this healthy market.
Yeah, I think again probably another episode, but I think just the challenges in our surrounding counties are it's so difficult to develop anything
Yeah,
these days,
yeah,
and that's unfortunate because it does hurt the inventory.
yeah, yeah. And we're working on that. We're working
Yeah.
on that hard. So
Yes.
yeah, we'll definitely have some information about that and some updates as we continue real estate matters. We'll do, I think, we'll talk about it. We're sort of fleshing out the details of the podcast and the blog as it goes forward, but we'll probably do some deeper dives on market updates and
Hmm.
take deeper dives into the numbers. Sometimes we'll talk about industry issues.
Yeah.
We already touched base on that a little bit about some office exclusives, what you've done here and your perspective on that at Douglas Realty, which I think is perfect. But what are some other topics that you're seeing in the market right now that are relevant?
Um, I, I, I think I actually want to touch on the Office
Oh,
exclusive
okay,
just
great.
for a
Yeah,
second.
for
We'll
sure.
do a
We're good.
complete
Okay.
video on that, but I think it's important for the consumer right now, and I want to share this now because again this is the hot topic in the market right now, and I don't know that everybody really truly understands it.
Right.
I'm not sure we even understand it right now, right?
It's fair.
These there's a lot of major players in the market that are shifting to what's called an office exclusive, just to give some baseline on that. And what that ultimately means is that particular listing is held internal within that particular one brokerage or single brokerage, and is not exposed to the mass market, right? And if done properly, like we do at Douglas, we do something called a first look,
Yeah.
and it is a form of office exclusive, but it's actually part of a multi-phase marketing program. All of our listings always get to an active status to the entire market, right? So they get maximum exposure, which ultimately drives highest and best offer. I think a lot of unknowns right now, even agents that are working for some of these companies that are doing the office exclusives, they don't really understand what they're doing or not doing. And I'm not sure if the agent doesn't understand it, then the consumer is definitely not going to
Right.
understand it. I think it's important to ask questions. We mentioned it a few times, right? So as a consumer and as an agent, I think you got to ask questions. You can't just assume like, all right, if our brokerage is doing an office exclusive, well, what's the benefit to that, right?
Right.
That's an agent asking that. Well, guess what? The seller needs to ask that same
Yeah.
question, right? What's the
Absolutely.
benefit to not providing maximum exposure? Now, I think what I'm kind of fleshing out here is through everything, all the studies I'm doing and reading every single article I can get my hands on. I think I think many of these companies are doing something similar to us,
Hmm.
and maybe just not necessarily in the same way. I think it's super important for the brokers themselves, or the CEO of the company, whoever's got the power. I think it's important for them to help whoever works under them understand what's happening and why they're doing office exclusive, and what's the long play there. Is it just some extra pre-marketing? If so, great. That's a wonderful thing. If it's truly just to keep it in house and not provide maximum exposure, well, if I'm an agent, I'm going to be asking questions,
Yeah,
and same with the consumer. So
absolutely. Yeah, I mean, to your point, yeah, if you're doing that to the benefit of the shareholders and stakeholders and not the consumer,
yeah,
something's wrong.
something's wrong.
So, to the client, I should probably say.
Yeah.
And yeah,
Oh,
take a
for the
deeper
agent
diligence.
too. The
Yeah.
agent gets hurt too.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'll probably maybe paint a little bit darker picture of that, but I think it's taken, steps back, right, to the 1960s and 70s, where we just have, you know, I think it's ripe for fair housing violations and steering,
Oh gosh, yeah.
and we could probably talk about that on a whole
We're
episode.
going to have a lot of those coming up.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
so.
not
So,
us at Douglas,
no,
but the
yeah, yeah,
industry.
yeah. And what I like about the Douglas First, look, there's like guardrails on it, right? So
Yes.
it's done to inform and educate sellers and in the marketplace and the agents that are working with those sellers. I think used properly, it's a tool. And
Hmm.
hey, listen, don't get me wrong. There's a place for office exclusives. Like if you're a judge or in law enforcement, or if you're in a domestic abusive relationship or
Hmm.
something to that factor, if you're a celebrity or a sports star,
Yeah.
you may want an office exclusive,
Right.
right? For a lot of reasons.
Hmm.
But that's a very small percentage of
It
the
is.
population, of minority. We have a fiduciary obligation to operate in the best interests of our clients,
Hmm.
and I think we can all agree fair market is the best way to do
Oh, 100%.
that.
Yeah.
It's just a numbers game,
Yeah.
and so yeah, we'll take a deeper dive
Oh,
on that
definitely.
in an
That's
episode
that's
for
that's still
that's a
evolving
teaser.
out there, and coming around. And I think even some of the companies that are essentially, I called it in another video I did. I called it a chess game, right? And
Yeah,
I think that's what they're all playing, chess right now, and trying to position themselves to win, and understand that, because if you win and you're a publicly traded company, that is important to them, their bottom line,
yeah,
right? But we need to make sure we always have the consumer's best interest at heart.
100% for sure.
Yeah.
And to your point, it just serves the agent better as well.
Yeah.
So again, it's all about educating yourself, and for the agents out there, make sure, to Doug's point, educate yourself on what's going on so that you can clearly inform your clients, because our part of our job as realtors is education and consulting, kind of break through all of that noise that's out there and provide, clarity.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So, um, so we touched a little bit about on title, which I think is great, and in the mortgage industry, I know we talked a little bit about it, where rates are as well. And I know you guys have a lot of flexibility within Coastline Mortgage, but anything else that you want to touch base on from the DCA portion from Coastline?
I mean, really just a streamlined process.
Yeah,
The flexibility piece is huge. I'm not sure, again, a lot of, I know the consumer doesn't always understand, but I know a lot of agents don't understand the whole mortgage side of things, and how different those things can be, right? And
sure.
and these videos are not about promoting. I mean, obviously that's going to come out because I own the companies, but it's
Right.
not about that. It's really about education and helping. There's many mortgage brokerages out there, but when you look at and say, okay, a traditional bank, a savings and loan type setup, something like that, versus a mortgage brokerage. Um, Mortgage brokers have flexibility.
Yeah,
Most mortgage brokers have, anywhere between 30, 40, maybe 50 lenders. So think about it that way. They're literally shopping for you to
yeah,
find the best deal. There's more than rate, right? So I think that's the biggest thing to also consider.
yeah. And to your point about title, I think it's important to use a local lender as
Yeah.
well, or someone, I should say, that's always communicating with you, right?
Yes.
They use some of these big box lenders, and you just, the lines of communication aren't there,
Hmm.
and that's where a lot of anxiety shows up for consumers and clients,
Yeah.
right? That in the whole lending and mortgage process, especially first time home buyers.
Real estate's done in evenings and weekends. When's
Yeah,
the bank open?
right, exactly.
You
Trust me,
know,
we've all been down there with some
yeah.
of these bigger banks, credit unions, whatever.
And
And
they're good. I will
yeah,
say that.
yeah, yeah,
So, but
yeah,
they're good for what they do in different ways. But I think when it comes to a home mortgage, I think everybody has to be aware of, some of those restrictions, basically.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Communication, like everything else,
Yeah.
is paramount to success within the transaction.
Yeah.
So, um, all right. Anything else that you want to talk about on our session this time?
Yeah, I think since this is our initial session, and some of these things are going to come, in future videos, like, the whole React. We have a program we're working on that's part of the Douglas Real Estate Academy. React stands for Real Estate Agent Coaching and Training.
Yep.
And it's a huge initiative that we have going now. That is not just for Douglas Realty. We open that up to the entire industry. Those of you that know me from prior to COVID in the industry know that we always open our training up to the industry. And it wasn't for recruiting or anything like that. It was simply to educate. I'm a big fan of education. I think if we help each other and we gain that knowledge together, we can grow together. So it
Yeah.
might sound cheesy, but I do think React, we're relaunching that initiative to bring the industry together a little bit better.
Yeah. Raise 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 the professional standards,
Yeah,
and to your point, it's just good for the industry,
right.
right? The more we can educate, and it's going to be not only to Doug's point, we're going to offer PMP pre-licensing classes,
Hmm.
CE designation courses, but business and personal development classes
Yeah,
as well, which across the whole gamut.
yeah.
Yeah,
Cover everything.
it's gonna be great. Great for our agents, great for the industry. So we're super excited about it.
Oh, very much.
I almost missed the opportunity to talk, and I don't know, again, maybe just the teaser portion of it, but you're getting ready to launch something for on the mortgage side of things for veterans.
Yeah, so we refer to it as VHAP. That's the acronym, Veterans Home Advantage Program. There's a website now for that.
Awesome.
It's veterans homeadvantage.com, veterans with an S.
Cool.
Somebody's writing on their name already. But that happens, when you come up with a great idea, which I think it is. But it's a way to give back, right? Those who served us and continue to serve us, it's a way for us to serve them, right? And so put together this whole program that provides massive discounts for veterans, active or retired, whatever the case might be.
Yeah.
Put something together that saves them money on the mortgage side, the title side, the real estate agent side, the home warranties and moving and things like that, like a whole package basically.
Yeah.
And I will be honest, that was triggered by there's some companies out there that advertise these things and don't actually do that, and they, in my opinion, overcharge the veterans, and
Yeah.
I don't think that's the right thing to do. So that's kind of where that started. You'll notice that with me, like if I get passionate about something, and that's where I was like, they truly deserve a break, man. They work hard for us.
Yeah.
And, but yeah, so a little bit about it if you
Yeah.
want to chime in. But
No, I mean, I just think it's great. And to your point, there's a lot of marketing out there that's disingenuous, to say the least, about what's offered to veterans, and I think it's kind of unfortunate. But yeah, I think anytime we can provide value to veterans, there's a lot of anxiety within the move. Anytime there's a move anyway, couple that with what's going on if you're serving in the armed forces, sometimes families have to be apart.
mhm,
So whatever we can do in that space to help out, it's
make it
going to be
easier
awesome.
for them.
Yeah, make it
Yeah,
easier for
very
them. So,
excited about
and
that.
then like you said, keep it simple.
Yeah,
Yeah. But work with an agent out there that has experience with working with veterans and understands what the PCS process is like, and then coupled with hopefully what we're going to be doing here with the VHAP program, it's going to be a win for everybody.
yeah, definitely.
That's awesome. I guess what we could do too is also, if you're listening to this in the comment section below, whatever platform we put this on, if there's something that you want us to touch base on,
Mhm.
talk about, if there's an issue out there, we're going to obviously keep our thumb on the pulse of what's going on out there and make sure that we're bringing relevant content to you guys. But if there's something or a topic that we can cover, we'll be more than happy to do that.
Yeah, definitely. Please.
Yeah. Anything else, Doug, on your mind as we're
Oh man, there's lots of things on
yeah,
my mind, but I don't want to keep you guys all day. So
yeah,
I appreciate you guys spending this time with us, and yeah, we'll have many more to come.
absolutely. Yeah. Like if you're a consumer out there and you're trying to parse through all the noise that's out there, we want to be a resource
Hmm.
and an advocate for you, bringing you the best and updated information, again, across what's going on out there as far as the misinformation that you're fed sometimes. But we want to show up as a resource for you and agents. If you're trying to grow your business, I think we're going to bring a lot of insight,
Oh
tips,
yeah,
and tricks and resources to that as well.
no doubt,
All
definitely. So
right. Wow, appreciate your time.
yeah,
Yeah,
appreciate your time
yeah,
and
thanks.
your time.
And thank you guys very much. So stay tuned for more details.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode of Real Estate Matters. Thanks for tuning in. Here at Douglas Realty, we think that every real estate agent out there deserves to feel confident and in control of their own business. That's why we provide tools like this podcast to help agents elevate their career to the next level. Because at our brokerage, we believe that if you focus on the agent, success will follow. Are you ready to forge your own path? Reach out to Douglas Realty today to get started.